Hey guys! Welcome to the America Iceberg. This was made by user, Sharaboyi. In case you did not know, an iceberg is a chart where you put in a bunch of facts, theories, etc. Anyway, let's dive right in. July 4, 1776. On July 4, 1776, the Second Continental Congress formally adopted the Declaration of Independence, severing ties with Great Britain and establishing the United States of America. This historic event marked the culmination of years of increasing tension and conflict between colonists and the British monarchy. It was a momentous day, signifying the birth of a new nation grounded in principles of liberty, equality, and self-governance. Since then, Independence Day is celebrated annually as a reminder of the courage and determination of the American founders. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States, serving from 1861 until his assassination in 1865. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest presidents in American history. Lincoln is best known for his leadership during the American Civil War and his efforts to abolish slavery with the Emancipation Proclamation. His eloquent speeches, such as the Gettysburg Address, continue to inspire, and his legacy as a defender of democracy and equality remains influential to this day. Cold War. The Cold War was a period of intense geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union, lasting from the end of World War II in 1945 until the early 1990s. It was characterized by ideological, political, and economic rivalry between the two superpowers. The conflict was waged indirectly through proxy wars, arms races, and propaganda campaigns, as both sides sought to spread their respective ideologies and gain global influence. The Cold War ended with the collapse of the Soviet Union, marking a significant shift in global power dynamics. Slavery abolished. Slavery in the United States was officially abolished with the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution in 1865. This amendment declared that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. The abolition of slavery was a significant milestone in American history, marking the end of a brutal institution that had dehumanized millions of African Americans. However, the legacy of slavery continues to shape the United States today, as the country grapples with the ongoing struggle for racial equality and social justice. First Amendment. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution guarantees several fundamental rights. Firstly, it protects freedom of speech, allowing individuals to express their opinions without government interference. Secondly, it safeguards freedom of religion, granting individuals the right to practice any religion or no religion at all. Additionally, the First Amendment protects freedom of the press, ensuring that the media can report and disseminate information without censorship. Finally, it guarantees the right to peaceful assembly and the right to petition the government for grievances, providing opportunities for citizens to voice their concerns and advocate for change. America likes oil. America has a strong dependence on oil due to its importance in various sectors of the economy. Oil is a key source of energy for transportation, powering cars, trucks, and airplanes. It is also used in the manufacturing of various products, such as plastics and chemicals. Additionally, the United States has a significant oil industry, with domestic production contributing to the country's energy needs and economic growth. However, this reliance on oil also poses challenges, including environmental concerns and geopolitical implications tied to oil imports. Most powerful military. The United States possesses the most powerful military in the world due to several factors. Firstly, it has a substantial defense budget, consistently allocating significant resources towards military capabilities and advancements. Secondly, the US maintains a global military presence through a network of military bases and deployments, allowing for rapid response and projection of force. Thirdly, the United States possesses advanced technology in weaponry, including sophisticated aircraft, naval vessels, and missile defense systems. Finally, the U.S. military benefits from highly trained personnel and a culture of innovation, continuously striving to maintain military superiority. Made in China. Made in China is a phrase commonly seen on products around the world, indicating that the item was manufactured in China. China has emerged as a major global manufacturing hub due to its large population, low labor costs, and extensive industrial infrastructure. Chinese factories produce a wide range of goods, including electronics, clothing, toys, and household items. While China's manufacturing prowess has contributed to its economic growth, it has also led to concerns about labor rights, environmental impact, and the quality of products. Would you like to supersize your order? Would you like to supersize your order is a phrase often used in fast food restaurants to offer customers the option to upgrade their meal to a larger size. By supersizing, customers typically receive a larger portion of food and a larger drink. This phrase is used to promote upselling and increase sales by tempting customers with the idea of getting more value for their money. However, it is important to consider the potential impact on health, as larger portion sizes can contribute to overeating and unhealthy eating habits. Police brutality. Police brutality in the USA refers to the excessive use of force by law enforcement officers against civilians. It has been a long-standing issue, particularly affecting marginalized communities. Incidents of police brutality often result in severe injuries or even the death of individuals involved. The lack of accountability and transparency in these cases has sparked widespread protests and calls for police reform across the country. Y2K. Y2K, or the year 2000 problem, was a global computer bug that caused concern as the new millennium approached. It stemmed from the use of two-digit year representations in computer systems, which could lead to errors when transitioning from 1999 to 2000. The worry was that computers would interpret the year 2000 as 1900, potentially causing widespread malfunctions in various industries reliant on computer technology. Governments, businesses, and individuals worldwide undertook extensive efforts to fix and prevent Y2K issues, including updating software, replacing hardware, and testing systems. Fortunately, due to these preparations, the actual impact of Y2K was relatively minor, with only isolated incidents of disruption reported. Nevertheless, Y2K served as a valuable lesson in the importance of proactive measures and the potential risks associated with technological limitations. Apollo 11. Apollo 11 was a historic space mission that successfully landed the first humans on the moon. Launched by NASA on July 16, 1969, the crew consisted of astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. On July 20th, Armstrong and Aldrin descended to the lunar surface in the lunar module, while Collins orbited the moon in the command module. Armstrong famously took the first step onto the moon, uttering the words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." The mission returned safely to Earth on July 24, 1969, marking a significant achievement in space exploration and the culmination of the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. The success of Apollo 11 paved the way for subsequent lunar missions and advanced our understanding of the Moon and the universe. D-Day. D-Day, also known as Operation Overlord, was a major military offensive during World War II. It took place on June 6, 1944, when Allied forces launched a massive invasion of Nazi-occupied France. The operation involved the combined efforts of American, British, and Canadian troops, with over 150,000 soldiers landing on the beaches of Normandy. The objective was to establish a foothold in Europe and ultimately liberate Western Europe from German control. Despite facing heavy resistance and casualties, the Allies successfully secured the beachheads and began the long and costly campaign to push the Germans out of France. D-Day marked a turning point in the war and paved the way for the eventual defeat of Nazi Germany. The operation remains one of the most significant military endeavors in history, demonstrating the power of coordinated multinational forces and strategic planning. Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley, often referred to as the King of Rock and Roll, was a legendary American singer, musician, and actor. Born on January 8, 1935, in Mississippi, Elvis rose to fame in the 1950s, blending various musical genres such as rockabilly, country, and rhythm and blues. With his charismatic stage presence and unique voice, he became a cultural icon and a symbol of rebellion for the younger generation. Elvis released numerous hit songs, including Hound Dog, Love Me Tender, and Jailhouse Rock, and starred in successful films like Love Me Tender and Blue Hawaii. Despite his immense success, Elvis faced personal struggles and passed away on August 16, 1977, at the age of 42. His impact on popular music and his enduring legacy continue to influence generations of musicians and entertainers. 9/11. September 11, 2001, commonly known as 9/11, was a tragic day in American history. On that day, a series of coordinated terrorist attacks were carried out by the extremist group Al-Qaeda. 4 commercial airplanes were hijacked, with 2 of them flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. The 3rd plane crashed into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, while the 4th, United Airlines Flight 93, crashed in a field in Pennsylvania after passengers bravely fought back against the hijackers. The attacks resulted in the loss of nearly 3,000 lives and caused extensive destruction and devastation. 9/11 had a profound impact on global politics, leading to increased security measures, the initiation of the War on Terror, and significant changes in international relations. The event remains a somber reminder of the need for unity, resilience, and continued efforts to prevent terrorism. Only country to drop a nuke in the war. The United States is the only country to have used nuclear weapons during warfare. In 1945, during World War II, the US dropped atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The bombings occurred on August 6 and August 9, respectively, and resulted in the deaths of an estimated 200,000 people, many of whom were civilians. The bombings were carried out with the aim of forcing Japan to surrender, ultimately leading to the end of the war. The decision to use nuclear weapons remains a subject of debate and controversy, with arguments centered around the devastating human toll and the ethical implications of such an act. Since then, the use of nuclear weapons has been heavily regulated and efforts have been made to promote disarmament and prevent the proliferation of nuclear weapons. The 1960 Civil Rights Act. The 1960s was a pivotal decade in the civil rights movement in the United States. In 1960, significant events and actions took place that advanced the cause of racial equality. One of the notable moments was the Greensboro sit-ins, where 4 African American college students staged a peaceful protest at a segregated lunch counter in North Carolina, sparking a wave of similar protests across the country. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, was also established in 1960, becoming a prominent organization in the fight for civil rights. Additionally, the Supreme Court ruling in Boynton v. Virginia declared racial segregation in interstate bus terminals unconstitutional. The Freedom Rides, initiated in 1961, further challenged segregation on interstate transportation. These events and actions of the 1960s played a significant role in raising awareness, mobilizing activists, and laying the groundwork for further advancements in the civil rights movement. The U.S. founded the UN. The United States played a significant role in the founding of the United Nations, UN. The UN was established in 1945, shortly after the end of World War II, with the aim of promoting international peace, cooperation, and security. The idea of creating the UN was first proposed by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who envisioned it as a way to prevent future global conflicts. The UN Charter, which outlined the organization's principles and structure, was drafted in San Francisco in 1945, with the active participation of the United States. The United States was one of the original 51 member countries that signed the Charter, and it remains an important member and financial contributor to the UN. The U.S. government saw the UN as a crucial platform for diplomacy, collective security, and addressing global challenges. Throughout its history, the United States has continued to play a key role in shaping the policies and initiatives of the UN.
There are more guns than people in USA. In the United States, it is estimated that there are more guns than people. This is primarily due to the country's strong emphasis on individual gun ownership rights, as protected by the Second Amendment of the Constitution. The exact number of guns in circulation is difficult to determine, but estimates suggest that there are over 393 million firearms owned by civilians in the country. This is significantly higher than the population of approximately 331 million people. However, it's important to note that gun ownership is not evenly distributed, with a relatively small percentage of the population owning the majority of firearms. The reasons for this disparity are complex and influenced by various cultural, historical, and political factors. Additionally, discussions surrounding gun control and regulation continue to be highly debated topics in the United States.
2020 COVID pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic in the United States began in early 2020 and had a significant impact on the nation. The virus, caused by the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2, quickly spread throughout the country, leading to widespread illness and death. The response to the pandemic varied across states and regions, with measures such as lockdowns, mask mandates, and social distancing guidelines implemented to slow the spread. The healthcare system faced immense strain as hospitals became overwhelmed with COVID-19 patients. The pandemic also had severe economic consequences, leading to job losses, business closures, and an overall downturn in the economy. Vaccination efforts began in late 2020, providing hope for controlling the spread of the virus and returning to normalcy. Jim Crow. Jim Crow refers to a system of racial segregation and discrimination that existed in the United States from the late 19th century until the mid-20th century. Named after a fictional character, Jim Crow laws were enacted to enforce racial segregation in public facilities, schools, and transportation. These laws were primarily implemented in the southern states, but their influence extended throughout the country. African Americans faced widespread discrimination, including limited access to education, healthcare, and voting rights. Social and economic opportunities were also restricted, perpetuating racial inequality. The civil rights movement in the 1950s and 1960s led to the dismantling of Jim Crow laws and the advancement of civil rights for African Americans. However, the legacy of Jim Crow continues to impact society today. Segregation. Segregation in the United States refers to the systematic separation of different racial or ethnic groups, primarily between white Americans and African Americans. It was enforced through various means, such as Jim Crow laws, which mandated racial segregation in public facilities, schools, and housing. Segregation was a deeply ingrained social and legal practice, perpetuating racial inequality and limiting opportunities for African Americans. It resulted in separate and unequal resources, services, and opportunities for different racial groups. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s played a significant role in challenging and dismantling segregation, leading to landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the desegregation of schools and public spaces. However, the effects of segregation continue to impact communities today, with ongoing efforts to address systemic racism and promote equality. Civil War. The Civil War was a major armed conflict that took place in the United States from 1861 to 1865. It was primarily fought between the northern states, known as the Union, and the southern states, known as the Confederacy. The main cause of the war was the issue of slavery, as the Confederacy sought to preserve the institution while the Union aimed to abolish it. The war resulted in a staggering loss of life, with an estimated 620,000 soldiers killed. It had a profound impact on the nation, leading to the end of slavery and the preservation of the Union. The war also transformed the United States into a more centralized and powerful federal state. Additionally, it highlighted deep divisions between the northern and southern regions, which continued to shape the country's history and identity in the years to come. The 2008 Recession. The 2008 recession, also known as the global financial crisis, was a severe economic downturn that originated in the United States and had a global impact. It was triggered by the collapse of the housing market, which was fueled by risky lending practices and the bundling of subprime mortgages into complex financial products. This led to a ripple effect throughout the financial system, causing major banks and financial institutions to fail or require government bailouts. The recession resulted in widespread job losses, a sharp decline in consumer spending, and a significant drop in housing prices. Governments around the world implemented stimulus packages and monetary policies to stabilize their economies. The effects of the recession were long-lasting, with many countries experiencing slow economic recovery and persistent unemployment rates. Lessons from the 2008 recession have influenced financial regulations and risk management practices to prevent similar crises in the future. Area 51. Area 51 is a highly secretive and heavily guarded military facility located in the Nevada desert, United States. It gained widespread attention and speculation due to conspiracy theories surrounding extraterrestrial activity and unidentified flying objects. The exact purpose of Area 51 remains classified, but it is believed to be a testing site for experimental aircraft and advanced military technologies. The facility's remote location and restricted access have fueled rumors and speculation about its activities. Popular culture has often portrayed Area 51 as a site for alien encounters and government cover-ups. The U.S. government acknowledged the existence of Area 51 in 2013, but details about its operations and projects remain highly classified. Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan, KKK, is a white supremacist hate group that originated in the United States in the late 1860s. It was founded by Confederate veterans and sought to intimidate and oppress African Americans during the Reconstruction era. The KKK used violent tactics such as lynching, arson, and intimidation to enforce racial segregation and uphold white supremacy. The group experienced different waves of activity throughout history, with periods of resurgence and decline. In addition to targeting African Americans, the KKK has also targeted other minority groups, including immigrants, Jews, and Catholics. The KKK is widely condemned for its history of hate and violence, and its activities are illegal in many jurisdictions. Efforts to combat the KKK and its ideology have been ongoing, with civil rights movements and legislation aimed at promoting racial equality and combating discrimination. John F. Kennedy assassination. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy on November 22, 1963, remains one of the most tragic and controversial events in American history. Kennedy was shot while riding in a motorcade through Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. The official investigation concluded that the lone gunman was Lee Harvey Oswald, who fired from a sixth-floor window of the Texas School Book Depository. However, conspiracy theories have persisted, suggesting involvement of other individuals or groups. The assassination had a profound impact on the nation, leading to heightened security measures for presidents and increased public scrutiny of government actions. Kennedy's death marked the end of an era and left an indelible mark on American politics and collective memory. Numerous investigations and public debates have continued to examine the details and implications of the assassination. Martin Luther King Jr. assassination. The assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a prominent civil rights leader, occurred on April 4, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee. King was shot while standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel. The assassin was identified as James Earl Ray, who was apprehended and later convicted for the crime. King's assassination sparked widespread outrage and led to riots and protests across the country. His death had a profound impact on the civil rights movement, leaving a void in leadership and inspiring continued efforts for racial equality. King's legacy as a champion for justice and equality continues to resonate today, as his teachings and activism continue to inspire future generations in the pursuit of a more just and inclusive society. Efforts to commemorate King's life and work are ongoing, including the establishment of Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a national holiday in the United States. Middle class crumbling. The middle class is experiencing a decline and erosion in many countries around the world. Factors contributing to this include economic inequality, stagnant wages, and rising costs of living. Many middle-class households are struggling to maintain their standard of living and are increasingly burdened by debt. Job insecurity and automation are also affecting middle-class jobs, leading to unemployment or underemployment. Additionally, the shrinking middle class has implications for social mobility, as it becomes harder for individuals to move up the economic ladder. Governments and policymakers are grappling with the challenge of addressing these issues and finding solutions to rebuild and strengthen the middle class. 2015 Iran deal. The 2015 Iran nuclear deal, officially known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, was an agreement reached between Iran and a group of world powers, including the United States, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Russia, and China. The deal aimed to curb Iran's nuclear program in exchange for lifting economic sanctions. Under the JCPOA, Iran agreed to limit its uranium enrichment and reduce its nuclear stockpile. International inspections and monitoring were implemented to ensure compliance. However, in 2018, the United States withdrew from the agreement, reimposing sanctions on Iran. This withdrawal strained diplomatic relations and created uncertainties regarding the future of the deal. The other signatories have made efforts to salvage the agreement, but its effectiveness remains in question. Spanish flu. The 1918 Spanish flu, also known as the H1N1 influenza A virus, was a global pandemic that infected an estimated 500 million people worldwide. It is considered one of the deadliest pandemics in history. The virus originated in birds and likely spread to humans through close contact with infected animals. The Spanish flu had a high mortality rate, particularly affecting young adults. The rapid spread of the virus was facilitated by the movement of soldiers during World War I. The pandemic had significant social and economic impacts, overwhelming healthcare systems and causing immense loss of life. Despite extensive research, the exact origin and reasons for the unusually high mortality rate of the Spanish flu remained debated among scientists. Nuclear bomb testing. The United States conducted a series of nuclear bomb tests between 1945 and 1992. These tests were primarily carried out to develop and improve nuclear weapons technology. The first atomic bomb was tested in 1945 as part of the Manhattan Project, which aimed to develop nuclear weapons during World War II. Subsequent tests were conducted to refine weapon designs, assess their effectiveness, and study the effects of nuclear explosions. The tests were conducted at various locations, including the Nevada test site and the Pacific Proving Grounds. The nuclear bomb tests had significant environmental and health consequences, causing radioactive contamination and contributing to global concerns about nuclear weapons proliferation. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, adopted in 1996, aims to ban all nuclear explosions, including tests, and promote disarmament efforts. The Great Depression. The Great Depression of 1929 was a severe worldwide economic downturn that lasted for about a decade. It began with the stock market crash on October 29, 1929, known as Black Tuesday, when billions of dollars were lost in a single day. The crash led to widespread panic and a sharp decline in consumer spending, business investment, and industrial production. Unemployment soared to over 25%, leading to widespread poverty and homelessness. The depression was exacerbated by a series of bank failures, agricultural downturns, and international trade disruptions. It took significant government intervention and the mobilization of resources during World War II to finally bring the economy out of the depression. 1930s Dust Bowl. The Dust Bowl of the 1930s was a period of severe dust storms that greatly affected the American prairies, particularly in the Southern Plains region. It was caused by a combination of drought, poor agricultural practices, and strong winds that carried away the topsoil, creating massive dust clouds. The dust storms were so intense that they darkened the sky and covered everything in a thick layer of dust, leading to respiratory issues for humans and livestock. The Dust Bowl resulted in widespread crop failures, economic hardship, and forced many families to abandon their farms and migrate to other regions in search of work. The federal government implemented soil conservation programs and agricultural reforms to prevent future dust storms and improve farming practices. The Dust Bowl serves as a cautionary tale of the environmental and economic consequences of unsustainable farming practices. Prohibition. Prohibition in the United States was a nationwide ban on the production, importation, transportation, and sale of alcoholic beverages from 1920 to 1933. The movement was driven by various social and religious groups who believed that alcohol consumption was detrimental to society. The 18th Amendment to the Constitution, ratified in 1919, officially established prohibition. However, prohibition led to the rise of illegal speakeasies, bootlegging, and organized crime, as people sought ways to circumvent the ban and continue to consume alcohol. The enforcement of prohibition proved to be challenging and costly, and it also led to a loss of tax revenue for the government. Ultimately, prohibition was repealed in 1933 with the ratification of the 21st Amendment, ending the era of nationwide alcohol prohibition in the United States. Lincoln was racist. Abraham Lincoln's views on race evolved over time, and while he opposed the expansion of slavery, he held racist beliefs that were common during his era. Lincoln believed that black people were inherently inferior to white people and initially did not support granting them equal rights. He supported the colonization of freed slaves to Africa or Central America as a solution to the race problem in America. Lincoln's primary goal during the Civil War was to preserve the Union, and he issued the Emancipation Proclamation as a military strategy rather than out of a moral commitment to racial equality. Despite his racist views, Lincoln's leadership during the Civil War and his eventual support for the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery were significant steps towards racial progress in the United States. It is important to understand Lincoln's complex legacy on race and to acknowledge both his shortcomings and his contributions to the fight against slavery. New Coke. New Coke was a reformulation of the Coca-Cola recipe introduced by the Coca-Cola Company in 1985. It was intended to replace the original Coca-Cola formula but was met with widespread backlash from consumers. The decision to launch New Coke was driven by market research indicating a preference for a sweeter taste, but the response from the public was overwhelmingly negative. The public outcry led to a resurgence in demand for the original Coca-Cola formula, prompting the company to reintroduce the original recipe as Coca-Cola Classic just a few months later. The New Coke debacle is often cited as a classic example of a marketing misstep and the importance of understanding consumer preferences and brand loyalty. Despite its failure, New Coke remains a memorable moment in the history of the Coca-Cola brand. The Red Scare. The Red Scare was a period of anti-communist hysteria in the United States during the early 20th century, with two distinct waves occurring after World War I and during the Cold War era. The first Red Scare in the aftermath of World War I was fueled by fears of radicalism and anarchist violence, leading to government crackdowns on leftist groups and immigrants. The second Red Scare, during the Cold War in the late 1940s and 1950s, was characterized by fears of communist infiltration and espionage, particularly by the Soviet Union. This period saw the rise of McCarthyism, named after Senator Joseph McCarthy, which involved accusations of communist sympathies and blacklisting of individuals in various sectors of society. The Red Scare led to widespread paranoia, political repression, and violations of civil liberties as the government sought to root out perceived communist threats. The Red Scare had a lasting impact on American society, shaping political discourse, fostering anti-communist sentiment, and influencing government policies for years to come. The My Lai Massacre. The My Lai Massacre was a significant event that took place during the Vietnam War on March 16, 1968, in the village of My Lai in South Vietnam. American troops, specifically Charlie Company, led by Lieutenant William Calley, indiscriminately killed between 347 to 504 unarmed Vietnamese civilians, including women, children, and elderly individuals. The massacre was a result of a combination of factors, including the stress and frustration of the soldiers, a lack of proper leadership and supervision, and the dehumanization of the Vietnamese people. The brutality and scale of the massacre shocked the world when it was exposed by investigative journalists. The My Lai massacre had profound consequences, leading to increased anti-war sentiment in the United States and tarnishing the reputation of the U.S. military. It also highlighted the moral complexities and atrocities of war, prompting discussions on the rules of engagement and the treatment of civilians in conflict zones. War on Terror. The War on Terror is a term used to describe the global military, political, and ideological campaign initiated by the United States following the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. It involved efforts to combat terrorism, particularly targeting extremist groups like Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. The US and its allies engaged in military operations in Afghanistan and Iraq, seeking to dismantle terrorist networks and prevent future attacks. The War on Terror also included intelligence gathering, surveillance, and the implementation of security measures to prevent terrorism. Critics argue that the War on Terror led to violations of civil liberties, increased militarization, and civilian casualties in conflict zones. The War on Terror continues to have far-reaching implications on foreign policy, national security strategies, and global perceptions of the United States. Watergate Scandal. The Watergate scandal was a major political scandal in the United States that occurred in the early 1970s during President Richard Nixon's administration. It began with a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate Office Complex in Washington, D.C. on June 17, 1972, orchestrated by members of Nixon's re-election campaign. The scandal unfolded as investigations revealed a web of illegal activities, including attempts to cover up the break-in and other political espionage. The scandal ultimately led to Nixon's resignation in 1974, making him the first U.S. president to resign from office. The Watergate scandal exposed abuses of power, corruption, and obstruction of justice at the highest levels of government, eroding public trust in political institutions. It also sparked reforms in campaign finance laws, government transparency, and oversight to prevent similar abuses in the future. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a wealthy financier and convicted sex offender who was known for his connections to powerful individuals, including politicians, celebrities, and business leaders. He was accused of sexually abusing underage girls and running a sex trafficking ring involving minors. Epstein's case gained widespread attention due to the high-profile nature of his associates and the leniency he received in a controversial plea deal in 2008. Epstein was arrested again in 2019 on federal charges of sex trafficking of minors and conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking. He died by suicide in jail while awaiting trial, leading to conspiracy theories and questions about the circumstances of his death. The Epstein case shed light on issues of wealth, privilege, and the exploitation of vulnerable individuals, sparking calls for justice and accountability for those involved in his crimes. Clinton body count. The Clinton body count is a conspiracy theory that alleges former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton are responsible for the deaths of numerous individuals who had ties to the couple. The theory suggests that these deaths were not coincidental but rather part of a sinister plot to eliminate potential threats or individuals with damaging information about the Clintons. There is no credible evidence to support the claims of the Clinton body count conspiracy theory, and investigations into the deaths have not found any wrongdoing by the Clintons. Critics argue that the conspiracy theory is baseless and has been debunked numerous times. The proliferation of the Clinton body count theory highlights the power of misinformation and the willingness of some individuals to believe in elaborate and unfounded conspiracy theories. It is important to critically evaluate information and rely on factual evidence when assessing such claims. The military uses Twitch. The US military has used platforms like Twitch to reach a younger audience and engage with potential recruits in a digital space where they spend a significant amount of time. By streaming live gameplay and interacting with viewers on Twitch, military recruiters aim to showcase the technology, skills, and camaraderie associated with military service. Critics have raised concerns about the ethics of using a platform primarily made up of young people for recruitment purposes, arguing that it blurs the lines between entertainment and military propaganda. There have been controversies surrounding the military's presence on Twitch, including accusations of targeting vulnerable individuals and circumventing regulations on recruitment of minors. The use of Twitch for military recruitment reflects evolving strategies to appeal to a tech-savvy generation and adapt to new forms of communication and engagement. Pay to win Super Bowl. There is no credible evidence to suggest that the New England Patriots paid to win Super Bowls. The Patriots have been a successful NFL team, winning multiple Super Bowl championships through their talent, coaching, and teamwork. While the team has faced controversies in the past, such as the Deflategate scandal involving underinflated footballs, there is no conclusive proof of the team paying to secure victories. Winning a Super Bowl requires skill, strategy, and dedication, and the Patriots' success can be attributed to their hard work and excellence on the field. It is important to rely on verified information and facts when discussing sports teams and their achievements to avoid spreading unfounded rumors or misinformation. Yellowstone supervolcano. The Yellowstone supervolcano is located in Yellowstone National Park in the United States and is one of the largest active volcanic systems in the world. It has the potential to erupt with a force thousands of times greater than a typical volcanic eruption, earning it the designation of a supervolcano. The last major eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano occurred approximately 640,000 years ago and created the Yellowstone caldera, a large volcanic crater. Scientists closely monitor the volcano for signs of activity, such as ground deformation, seismic activity, and changes in gas emissions, to assess the risk of a future eruption. While the chances of a catastrophic eruption in the near future are considered low, an eruption would have devastating consequences for the surrounding region and potentially impact global climate. Illuminati/Freemasonry. The Illuminati is a conspiracy theory that posits the existence of a secret society or group that purportedly controls world events and manipulates governments, economies, and societies for their own gain. The theory alleges that the Illuminati seek to establish a new world order characterized by global domination and control. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the Illuminati conspiracy theory has persisted for centuries, with various individuals and groups being accused of being members. The term Illuminati historically referred to the Bavarian Illuminati, an Enlightenment-era secret society founded in the 18th century. Today, the concept of the Illuminati is often associated with unfounded claims of powerful individuals or organizations pulling the strings behind major world events, fueling paranoia and distrust in some circles. New Orleans Axe Killer. The New Orleans Axeman was a serial killer who operated in New Orleans, Louisiana, in the early 20th century. The Axeman is believed to have been responsible for a series of brutal attacks using an axe, targeting mostly Italian-American grocers and their families. The killer gained notoriety for his chilling letters to the local newspapers, in which he claimed to be a supernatural being and threatened further violence. The Axeman's crimes created a sense of fear and panic in the community, leading to increased security measures and vigilante groups forming to protect themselves. Despite various suspects being identified, the identity of the Axeman was never definitively proven, and the case remains unsolved. The legend of the New Orleans Axeman continues to intrigue and fascinate people, inspiring books, movies, and music based on the chilling events surrounding the unsolved murders. The Oklahoma City Bombing. The Oklahoma City bombing occurred on April 19, 1995, when a truck bomb exploded outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The bombing was carried out by domestic terrorists Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols, resulting in the deaths of 168 people and injuring hundreds more. The attack was motivated by anti-government sentiments and extremism, with McVeigh and Nichols seeking retaliation for the government's handling of the Waco siege and Ruby Ridge incident. The Oklahoma City bombing remains one of the deadliest acts of domestic terrorism in U.S. history, sparking a nationwide outpouring of grief and support for the victims and their families. The perpetrators were apprehended, tried, and convicted for their roles in the bombing, with McVeigh being executed and Nichols serving a life sentence in prison. The tragic event led to increased security measures and a greater focus on preventing and addressing domestic terrorism within the United States. Cicada 3301. Cicada 3301 is the name given to a mysterious internet puzzle that first appeared in January 2012. The puzzle involves complex cryptographic challenges, riddles, and references to various esoteric subjects, attracting the attention of codebreakers, puzzle enthusiasts, and conspiracy theorists worldwide. Participants who solve the puzzles are directed to hidden messages and websites, leading to further enigmatic challenges and tests of skill. The true purpose and origins of Cicada 3301 remain unknown, with speculation ranging from a recruitment tool for intelligence agencies to an alternate reality game or social experiment. Each year, a new puzzle would emerge, typically in January, but the identity of those behind Cicada 3301 and the ultimate goal of the puzzles remain shrouded in mystery. Despite the intrigue and speculation, Cicada 3301 has garnered a dedicated following and has inspired a sense of curiosity and collaboration among those who attempt to unravel its enigmatic puzzles. Al Capone. Al Capone, the notorious American gangster, was rumored to have contracted syphilis during his criminal career. Syphilis is a sexually transmitted infection caused by the bacterium Treponema pallidum. If left untreated, syphilis can progress through different stages, leading to serious health complications. Some reports suggest that Capone's erratic behavior in his later years may have been attributed to the neurological effects of syphilis, including symptoms such as dementia and paranoia. While there is speculation about Capone's syphilis diagnosis, concrete evidence confirming the disease's presence in his medical history is lacking. Syphilis was a common ailment during Capone's time, and its potential impact on his health has been a subject of historical interest and debate among researchers and biographers. Apollo theory. The claim that the moon landing was staged suggests that the Apollo 11 mission, which landed astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the Moon in 1969, was faked by the US government. Proponents of this conspiracy theory argue that the footage and photographs of the Moon landing were staged on Earth to deceive the public. They point to various anomalies in the images and videos, such as shadows and lighting inconsistencies, as evidence of a hoax. However, the overwhelming consensus among scientists, astronauts, and experts is that the Moon landing was a real and monumental achievement in human history. Extensive documentation, including rock samples and scientific experiments conducted on the Moon, support the authenticity of the Apollo missions. The Moon landing conspiracy theory persists as a fringe belief, despite being debunked by multiple sources and the lack of credible evidence to support the claim. The military utilizes the dark web. The military utilizes the dark web for various purposes, including intelligence gathering, communication, and cybersecurity operations. By operating on the dark web, military personnel can access hidden websites and forums to gather information on threats, adversaries, and illicit activities. The anonymity provided by the dark web allows military agencies to conduct covert operations, share sensitive intelligence, and communicate securely without revealing their identities or locations. Additionally, the dark web serves as a platform for monitoring and countering cyber threats, as military organizations can track and analyze malicious activities, hacking attempts, and potential vulnerabilities. While the dark web presents opportunities for military use, it also poses risks, such as exposure to criminal networks, cyber attacks, and the dissemination of classified information. 9/11 theory. The claim that Bush did 9/11 is a baseless and unfounded conspiracy theory that falsely implicates former President George W. Bush in the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. The 9/11 attacks were carried out by the extremist group Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, and there is overwhelming evidence and consensus among experts that the attacks were orchestrated by the terrorist organization. It is important to rely on factual information and credible sources when discussing historical events like the 9/11 attacks to avoid spreading misinformation and harmful conspiracy theories. 5G towers caused corona. There is no scientific evidence or credible research to support the claim that 5G towers cause coronavirus or any other illness. Coronavirus, specifically COVID-19, is caused by the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2, which is a respiratory virus that spreads primarily through respiratory droplets when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or talks. The implementation of 5G technology has no direct connection to the transmission or development of viruses, including the coronavirus. LSD. In the 1950s and 1960s, the CIA conducted a covert program called MKUltra, which aimed to explore the potential use of LSD and other mind-altering substances for interrogation and mind control purposes. The CIA believed that LSD could be used to extract information from individuals and manipulate their behavior. As part of MKUltra, the CIA administered LSD to unwitting participants, including prisoners, military personnel, and volunteers, without their knowledge or consent. The experiments conducted under MKUltra were highly unethical and raised serious ethical concerns about the treatment of human subjects. The program was eventually exposed and criticized, leading to investigations, congressional hearings, and reforms in research ethics and oversight. The use of LSD by the CIA under MKUltra remains a dark chapter in the history of intelligence agencies and research ethics. Experiments. In the 1950s and 1960s, the CIA conducted a covert program called MKUltra, which aimed to explore the potential use of LSD and other mind-altering substances for interrogation and mind control purposes. The CIA believed that LSD could be used to extract information from individuals and manipulate their behavior. As part of MKUltra, the CIA administered LSD to unwitting participants, including prisoners, military personnel, and volunteers, without their knowledge or consent. The experiments conducted under MKUltra were highly unethical and raised serious ethical concerns about the treatment of human subjects. The program was eventually exposed and criticized, leading to investigations, congressional hearings, and reforms in research ethics and oversight. The use of LSD by the CIA under MKUltra remains a dark chapter in the history of intelligence agencies and research ethics. The Mayans. The Maya civilization was an ancient Mesoamerican civilization that flourished in the region of present-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. The Maya are known for their advanced achievements in architecture, art, mathematics, astronomy, and hieroglyphic writing. They developed sophisticated city-states with impressive pyramids, temples, and palaces, such as those found at Tikal, Chichen Itza, and Palenque. The Maya were skilled farmers who cultivated maize, beans, and squash, and they also engaged in trade networks that extended across Mesoamerica. The Maya had a complex social structure with a ruling elite, priests, artisans, farmers, and slaves. The decline of the Maya civilization is still a subject of debate among historians, but factors such as environmental degradation, warfare, and political instability are believed to have contributed to their downfall. MKUltra, and now for the bottom of the iceberg. MKUltra was a top-secret program conducted by the CIA from the 1950s to the early 1970s that aimed to explore the use of mind control techniques and behavior modification through the administration of drugs like LSD. The program involved experiments on unwitting individuals, including prisoners, mental patients, and military personnel, without their consent. MKUltra also delved into other methods such as sensory deprivation, hypnosis, and psychological torture to study the effects on human behavior. The program faced criticism and controversy for its unethical practices and violation of human rights, leading to investigations and congressional hearings. The revelations about MKUltra exposed the extent of government experimentation on civilians and raised ethical concerns about the use of mind-altering substances for covert purposes. And that was the end of the iceberg. That was a lot. Anyway, thanks for watching, and CYA.